Hey everybody, Yankee here. First off, before we get started, I want to apologize for my voice. If it comes and goes, I'm feeling about as fit as a cross-eyed three-legged mule. So keep that in mind when you're listening to me today. Even though I don't feel well, I wanted to come on here and I wanted to answer an email from a viewer. Everybody knows that in the gun community, most people can be broken down into one of two camps. The I like revolvers better camp and the I like semi-autos better camp. And I think most people know I fall into the former. I like revolvers better. I think that's no secret. I love revolvers, and I always promote revolvers every chance I get because I think a lot of people miss out on them because they're not modern, high tech, all that stuff. They're not tactical, so they get overlooked. When I think that they're actually better in a lot of circumstances. And I've been not shy at all about sharing this opinion. And this person asked me, could I give an unbiased opinion of when revolvers are better for certain circumstances, like what are revolvers better at, and when are semi-automatics better? When would they be better under certain circumstances? What are the pluses of each gun, the strengths of each gun? And to do that, today, I'm going to, like I said, do a completely unbiased video here where I compare revolvers to semi-automatics. Now, what we're going to do is look at several different categories here and see which gun wins in that category. And then we're going to use that to decide when would it be best to choose a semi-auto and when would it be best to choose a revolver. We're going to look at reliability, usability. Now, usability is just how easy is it to use, accuracy, performance, which is going to be a lot about power, capacity, and overall style. And I know style is kind of subjective, but we're going to throw it in here. Now, first off, when it comes to reliability, pretty much most guns these days are reliable. You can count on almost any quality name brand gun, but still, in the end, revolvers are slightly more reliable. Now, some people will say, yeah, but revolvers are more likely to have a catastrophic failure if they have a failure. Yeah, but they still have catastrophic failures at a smaller rate than semi-autos do. And then semi-autos have all those non-catastrophic failures on top of it. So revolvers definitely win when it comes to reliability. I would argue with anyone about that, and I would dare anyone to come in and try to spank the yank on that one. Now, usability is how easy is that gun to use? How simple is it? Well, guns aren't complicated. You don't need a degree in rocket science or brain surgery to work one. But in reality, when it comes down to which one is more simple, it's going to be the revolver. You don't have to load mags. You don't have to put safeties on and off. You don't have to rack anything. It's ready to go once you load it up. So revolvers are easier to use. And I'm not saying either is hard to use, but revolvers are just easier. All right, next we come to accuracy. And I think we all know how important accuracy is. If you can't hit your target, why bother shooting at it? So accuracy is very important. And you can get very accurate semi-automatics and you can get very accurate revolvers. But inherently, since the revolver barrel is fixed to the frame, which is fixed to the grip, in a rest, revolvers are just slightly more accurate. So this is another category that's going to go to revolvers. Even if it's just by a slim margin, it's still an actual measurable margin. Because like I said, if you test both guns, many different types of both of these guns, in a rest, you'll see that the revolvers are slightly more accurate. That doesn't mean you'll be able to shoot it more accurately. That just means the gun itself is inherently more accurate. Now let's look at performance. Now a lot of people say that accuracy is the number one factor, being able to hit your target. I actually think performance comes first because it doesn't matter if you hit your target if it doesn't have the ability to do what you want it to do when it does hit. Like if someone has got light body armor on and you're shooting at them with a 25 ACP from 20 yards and it's not even tickling them, it's not going to do you any good, even if you can hit perfectly square on every shot. So I think performance is probably the most important factor. And when it comes to performance, revolvers have a huge advantage here. Much more powerful calibers. And I know some people will say, well, I can get a 50 AE semi-auto or these other, specialty brands. Yeah, but those guns aren't really what I'd call carryable. And two, they still don't match up to the big boys in revolvers. They're not as powerful as 500 Magnum, 4570, whatever. Any ridiculous semi-automatic you want to carry, you can find an even more ridiculous revolver when it comes to power. So revolvers definitely win the performance category because they are just more powerful and more capable. Next we have capacity. And I put capacity so low on the list because capacity very seldom ever comes into play in normal everyday circumstances, especially self-defense circumstances. So I put it a little low on this list. But in this category, this is where semi-autos shine. I mean, you can get 20, 30 rounds in a semi-auto. 8 is a high number in a revolver. So revolvers definitely can't compete with semi-autos when it comes to capacity. So here's one that the semi-autos actually win. Now next we have style. And like I said, this is very subjective, and anybody who wanted to argue with me on this point would definitely be able to argue. Because, like I said, it is completely up to the user. But I'm going to give style to revolvers. Revolvers are just way cooler than semi-autos. Semi-autos are mechanical things. They're tools. Semi-automatics are something you have just to get the job done. And, you can make them pretty, but at the end of the day, they're just a pretty tool. Revolvers are like little pieces of art as far as I'm concerned. They are amazing. They look awesome. I love everything about them. So I'm going to give this to revolvers, but you could put it on whichever side you wanted. All right, now that we've looked at what are the strengths of each gun, where does each gun excel, let's look at what uses would be best for each gun. What circumstance would you want to choose one gun over the other? Well, first, let's look at the revolver. Well, since it is more reliable, it is more usable, it is more accurate, it does have more power, well, self-defense is going to be a great use for this because all of those things are very important. Capacity seldom comes into play. If you've got .357 Magnum on your side, even if you only got 6 or 5 rounds of it, you're probably going to be fine. Statistically, you're definitely going to be fine. As long as you can hit your target, like I said, that'll get the job done, even if they're wearing light body armor. Now let's look at home defense. If you're choosing one of these two for home defense, your best choice would be the revolver because it's more powerful, it's easier to use, it's more accurate, all the same things for self-defense. And if it's your gun for home defense, you're probably just using it till you get to a long gun or a shotgun. So capacity probably won't come into play here either. Probably won't come into play even if you don't go for something else. But power, accuracy, those things are always important. So revolver would be the choice for home defense. Now let's look at like hiking, biking, and camping. Well, that's definitely going to be a revolver. When you're out in the woods or anything like that, you might be meeting up with things that are bigger and badder than you and bigger and badder than most people, and it takes something quite powerful to drop them. Or something very loud to scare them away if you want to fire a warning shot. And in that case, a revolver is going to be your choice. It's just a far better choice for camping, hiking, etc. Not only is it better because it's more powerful, more accurate, etc., but you have less chances of a problem. So the revolver is very much the better choice for hiking, biking, and camping. Now let's look at concealed carry. This kind of falls under self-defense, but it's slightly different. Which one would you want to have to carry on you every day, and which one's going to be better for you to use for self-defense out in the general public? Well, I'm going to give this to revolvers because there are revolvers that are very easy to carry. Now, there are semi-autos that are very easy to carry too, but when you get smaller with the semi-autos, you start running into more minor failures. You don't want that when you're concealed carrying. The revolver doesn't have that problem when you go down to smaller guns. The J-frames shoot just as well as the N-frames and the X-frames. So you don't have to worry about that. And I've always said I think revolvers fit a body better if you know how to properly carry. So I just think revolvers are easier to conceal. They're better to use for self-defense. They're more powerful, more accurate, all that other stuff. That makes them the better choice for concealed carry. All right, now let's say you're not concealing it. You're actually going to open carry it. Well, then I think the revolver is definitely the better choice for a couple of different reasons. When I see someone open carrying a big fancy semi-auto like a high capacity gun, I think tacti-tard. Quite often. It's just what I do. I mean, I know that's a prejudice and it's, my own weakness there. But that's what I think, tacti-tard. If I see someone open carrying a .454 Casull or a .44 Magnum, I'm like, wow, that guy probably knows how to handle that gun. And that gun is something I definitely ain't going to want throwing lead down at me. I think that guy knows what he's doing because I think he's chosen the better gun. Plus, they look better. They look nicer. And I don't think they threaten people as much. I don't think people see someone with a revolver on their hip and get as scared as they do if they see someone with a Glock on their hip. So I think revolvers have that additional benefit of they're not as alarming when you open carry them. And they're definitely every bit as capable as any semi-automatic, if not more so. So for open carry, I would definitely say revolver is the better choice. Now let's look at range use. If you're going to take it out, practice with it at the range, which one's more fun? Well, I know a lot of people are going to say semi-autos because you can rapid fire. Well, I don't really see a lot of fun in rapid firing myself personally, and I also don't see a lot of benefit in it. A lot of these rapid fire training exercises, in my opinion, what they do is they teach people to be careless, and they teach people to depend on how many bullets they throw down range instead of being accurate as possible with each one. Because one perfect shot can end a fight right away, whereas it might take 10 nearly perfect shots. So could be a big difference there, could mean the difference between life and death. Plus, I just think revolvers are more fun at the range. Like I said, they're more powerful. So destroying something with a revolver is just more impressive than a semi-automatic. So for range use, I'm going to say revolver. Now let's look at a situation where you find yourself in combat. Let's say you're a soldier or a police officer or something like that, where you're actually engaging in combat with an assailant or an enemy force. Well, in that case, it's going to be semi-automatic. Because in that case, capacity is going to come into account. And it's probably not going to be your primary firearm anyway if you're a soldier, but if you're a police officer, it might be. And that capacity is going to matter, especially if you're going against multiple assailants. That doesn't happen to most of us, ever. But it can happen if you're in law enforcement, and it'll probably definitely happen. Well, I won't say definitely, because most soldiers never see combat. But if you're a soldier that sees combat, that's something you'd think about. That's why you would want a semi-automatic, and that's why the Army has semi-automatics as their carry guns. And along with combat, another thing where semi-automatics would be the thing you want to choose would be combat training. If you're training for combat, or if you're training for these tactical scenarios, well, then you're going to want a semi-automatic. You're not going to be going out there and doing barrel rolls and backflips and stuff, shooting revolvers. That's just not going to look right. You're going to definitely have to have a semi-automatic. When you want to look as tactical as possible while you're training for the unlikely, you're going to want to have a semi-automatic. So there's another time when you would choose the semi-automatic. So when you get done here and you look at it, revolvers are almost always the better choice. They get the job done better. They're more reliable. They're more accurate. They're more powerful. All those things. There's very seldom a reason to not choose a revolver. However, there are some. If you're someone who is likely to see combat or has to do that as part of their job, has to make contact with bad guys like military or police, well, then this would be a good choice for you, a semi-automatic. Or if you're someone who just wants to pretend that you might see combat, then it's a good choice for you. Or even more so, if you're someone who just wants other people to think you have seen or are going to see combat, then semi-automatics would probably be the gun for you.